Hey, what is up, everyone? So, some interesting semi-Sea of Thieves related news came out yesterday talking about Craig Duncan, who we've all known as the head of Rare since 2011, has now been promoted to be the head of Xbox Game Studios. So, essentially overseeing all the different core Xbox Game Studios. This doesn't include like the Activision and Bethesda stuff because I think they have those as separate entities from Xbox Game Studios, but this would include stuff like the studio that makes like Forza, and obviously Rare is part of Xbox Game Studios, so it'll still be somewhat involved with the studio and Sea of Thieves, of course, but at a much higher level. Craig Duncan was really influential for basically getting Sea of Thieves off the ground, so if you're a Sea of Thieves fan, you really have Craig Duncan to thank, because before he was there, Rare was kind of in decline. They were basically turned into just a non-developer, essentially making like shovelware for the Xbox Connect and just not really having any successes. Really the only one that I can think of, and I can't remember if this was before or after he got there, was the Viva Pinata game, which a lot of people liked, but I don't think it did that well when it came out. But it was under him that Sea of Thieves became a project and eventually became a huge game with over 40 million players. If you're interested to hear more about like that history and like what Craig Duncan did and all that stuff leading up to how Sea of Thieves came to be, I definitely recommend taking a look at these two videos. I'll have them linked here. The first one is basically Rare's history prior to Sea of Thieves being started, and then the second one goes in depth about the history of Sea of Thieves, like going through the prototyping, how the ideas were come up with, and then just going along the different years. I'll also be making an updated version of that video later on towards the end of the year, with everything that's happened this year, of course, but everything up until 2023 is in that current video. So I'll leave both of those linked here for you to watch if you're interested, and I think it helps give some background to really understand like how influential Craig Duncan was with Sea of Thieves, and we might not have had the game if he wasn't the head of Rare at the time. Now, you might not be familiar with Craig Duncan if you just are a Sea of Thieves fan and don't really pay too much attention to behind the scenes, but who you might be familiar with is Joe Neate. So Joe Neate and Jim Horth, which I'm not familiar with Jim Horth, but I am familiar with Joe, and both of them are going to be co-heads of Rare going forward. So I feel like this has probably been planned for a while now. If you've noticed, Joe hasn't really been in a lot of like the update videos and stuff, and it's kind of taken a backseat role compared to where he was before with Sea of Thieves, where he was really involved with all the developer videos and all that stuff that was happening with that. So I'm assuming they've been preparing for this transition for a long time, and they just are now announcing it. And I'm interested to see how that goes. Honestly, if there's anything to take away from this, I think this just shows how successful Sea of Thieves has been in the eyes of Microsoft. Microsoft could have promoted anyone within the company or gone outside the company to try to find someone to bring in to run Xbox Game Studios. But the fact that they looked over at Rare and saw like how successful Sea of Thieves has been and everything that Craig Duncan has done there really shows that I think Microsoft highly values Sea of Thieves. Obviously, we saw earlier this year it was pretty successful when it went to PlayStation. It became like one of the number one selling games on their platform for a while, even both versions. So there was the premium version that was pretty high on the list. I think it was either the third most selling game on there, and then you also had the main version. So really, if you combine the three different versions of the game that was sold on PlayStation, there's a ton of players that bought it over there. So it's been highly successful. And the reason why that's important is I think that's a good sign for us Sea of Thieves fans going forward, because if the game's doing well and it's kind of like a highlight for the Xbox brand, then they will keep supporting it. And before, we always talked about how Sea of Thieves has like 10 years worth of content and then they'll probably move on to something else, but we might see that this plan changes. I don't know if they've already said that plan was going to change, but I think all this goodwill towards Sea of Thieves is going to help keep it relevant and keep the game supported for longer than maybe was initially intended. So I'm very excited by that news. And I'm also excited to see Craig Duncan take this higher level role, because I think he could potentially help get some of the other studios that might have been struggling and really bring them up to where Sea of Thieves was and really get a more successful line of first party titles. Obviously, we know a lot of games are in the process of being worked on. Like I think Playground Games has been working on a new Fable game, but that's kind of been stalled for a while. There's also a ton of other games that are probably in the works behind the scenes. Even from Rare themselves, Everwild is still being worked on. So I'm hopeful with someone with his experience can come in and really right the ship and bring us more great games to play. But those are my thoughts on this news. I just thought it was interesting and somewhat related to Sea of Thieves, so I figured I would cover it. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts in the comments below. What you think about all this? Are you excited for this change? Are you worried about this change? Obviously, a change in leadership at Rare can negatively affect Sea of Thieves, but I really don't think it will. I think if anything, it's probably going to have a positive effect. But I'd love to hear your all's thoughts in the comments below. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed, it'd be great if you like and subscribed. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye y'all.